Hello, welcome to Trivial Knits. My name is Laura. I live in Los Angeles. Yes, we are in a state of fire emergency right now, but my family and my home are safe at the moment. And it's been a long time since I recorded a video, and I've just been kind of putting it off, and there's various reasons why it's been a while. I recorded one that didn't work several months ago, and it just hasn't been something I could do lately. But today, I can do it. So we're going to do it. Um, I have been debating whether to make a everything I made in 2024 video. Keep going back and forth on whether I really need to do that, should do that. And I finally saw somebody that I follow on Instagram and YouTube whose channel I think is called What Mariel Made. Um, and she had a post that was like, I just need to get on with my life. I'm just doing the everything I knit in 2024 video and getting on with my life. And that is exactly how I feel. I need to stop thinking about it, stop wondering if I should do it, and just do it. If you don't like these kind of videos, skip it. And I'll be back in a few weeks, hopefully, maybe sooner, I don't know, to talk about my 2025 plans and how I'm going to use my yarn stash and all of that stuff. But for now, I'm just going to try and show what I made in 2025. I don't have everything that I made with me, and I don't really have the bandwidth to do a lot of editing of this video and add images and everything. So I probably will not show the things that I have already gifted or given away, but you can go to my Instagram. I'm Trivial Knits on Instagram to see more details about all the projects. All right, maybe I should introduce myself again. This channel is Trivial Knits. I call it that for a couple of reasons. One is that everything I knit could be considered trivial, and that I do a lot of colorful accessories, mostly things that are just for fun. I have been knitting for about 20 years, so I have amassed way more knitted items that I could ever wear or use. So when I make a new one, it's trivial. It is not something I need usually. But I do try to give away a lot of the things I knit. I have used them to raise money for organizations I believe in. So I try to find something good to do with them, even if they are trivial. And the other reason the channel is called Trivial Knits is that I enjoy trivia. I am a two-time Jeopardy champ. When I was on Jeopardy, I did not receive any questions about knitting or fiber, although I did get to talk about knitting in the little chit chat portion where you talk to the host about your hobbies. But so I use this channel to do my own trivia questions about yarn and fiber and all of that stuff. So I will have a question at the end that you can answer just for the sport of it, if you like. There is no prize money or anything like that, but it's just about sort of sharing our knowledge and learning new things about yarn, fiber, wool, and all of that. So stay tuned to the end for that. And yeah, that's gonna be it for the introduction and the disclaimer. I am gonna show almost all of the 50 items I knit in 2024. I mostly knit accessories, as I said, so I don't do a lot of garments. I don't do a lot of very large time-consuming projects, hence I'm able to produce a lot of projects. And I also knit every day as a way of kind of coping with stress and anxiety and things. So that's why I have produced so much. It was a little bit of a stressful year last year. I just hope that sharing these projects will give you ideas for your next year, patterns and designers you maybe are aware of or haven't heard of before. So that's the point of sharing this all. And I have grouped all the items by type. So I'm going to talk about one-offs, things that I just made like one of that thing first. Then I will talk about my shawls and scarves. Then I will talk about cowls. And then I will talk about hats, which I have the most of. And to keep this fun, I'm going to give a rating for each object. That's sort of more for myself than anything else. So here's the rating system. It might be similar to what I used in my hat video on the channel, but I don't remember, honestly. But if I gave something an A, that means it came out well. I use it a lot. I really enjoyed knitting it. Good, great. If I give it a B, that means it came out fine. It was enjoyable enough to knit, and I sometimes use it. Okay, so it's fine. A C means that there were some problems either with the outcome of the project or during the knitting of it, or I just don't use it very much. It's just not for me. If I give something a D, that means it has problems and I will never use it. And if something was a fail, that means I hated knitting it and I hate the outcome. I'm not even sure if anything of these 50 items will be a fail, but we'll see. There are some A's and a couple of A pluses even. So let's get into it. I think that's it. Oh, and if you like this channel, if you like what I'm doing here, you like my vibe, throw me a like and a subscribe. That just helps me kind of keep going with the channel. Know that I should make more videos and not take another 4-month break. That just helps me out. And it should be free for you to do. So mutual helpfulness there. Okay. So let's talk about one-offs. The first one I want to share is my cozy bottle. I might have shared this. See, I can't really remember what I've already shared because it's been so long since I made a video. So I'm just going to pretend you haven't seen anything. This is the cozy bottle. It is a hot water bottle cover. And I have a hot water bottle in it. This gets an A+. This is like one of my most treasured possessions. When we were staring down the prospect of having to evacuate because of the fires last week, I was like, should I take my water bottle cover? Ultimately decided anything that I have knit, I can knit again. All of this is replaceable, so no. And hot water bottles are like very cheap on the internet, so it wasn't in the go bag, but I do love this. I love it so much. I carry it around with me all the time. I keep it on my lap. It has water in it right now because I had hot water in it while I was giving a Zoom presentation earlier, and I just like had it on my lap like a cat. And the cover is made out of scraps from my stash. It's all non-superwash wool. The main color here is Kelborn Woolen's Lucky Tweed in Ocean, I want to say, and this lighter color is Fog of the same yarn. And these little green pops are Green Mountain Spinnery Weekend wool in the color Lichen, and these navy blue are Cascade 220 in navy, I think. So these were all yarns I had used for other projects earlier in the year, and I had plenty of them to make this color work. I am not 100% sure of the designer's name, but I think it's Hinky, maybe? But it's called Cozy Bottle. So you can find it on Ravelry or Google it. It's the Cozy Bottle pattern. There's 2 colorwork charts to choose from. It's free, I am pretty sure. And I just love this one so much. Actually, when I was making it originally, I had my old water bottle that I like dug out to make sure this would fit. And somewhere along the way, I lost the stopper to it. So I no longer can use that water bottle, which is very sad. So I did have to order a new water bottle to go with this one, but I am holding out hope that the stopper is like somewhere here in my office, and I will find it one day, and then I will have 2 water bottles and I will need to make another cover, and I will enjoy doing that. Okay, Cozy Bottle, A+, one of my favorite makes of the year and all time. My next item is right behind me on this chair. I'm going to get up and put it on. I hope I don't regret that decision if I disrupt everything here, but so this is my Lindell cardigan. I'm going to try and model it, and it's very hard to put on items using the camera as your mirror because it doesn't actually work that way. But this is one of the very few garments I have ever knitted. I did this as a test knit for Ona Wolton, who created this pattern in conjunction with Junction Fiber Mill using their yarns, and this was their Rhinebeck sweater for this past year. I was sadly not able to go to Rhinebeck this year, but Ona asked me if I would test knit because I have done several of her other Lindle patterns. So I did, and it was very cool. And I talked about it in a previous video, so I'm not going to go on about it. But here I have finally attached the buttons, trimmed the ends. I have historically not really been a wool sweater person because I have considered myself too sensitive to wool, but I'm like getting used to it. I'm wearing enough items, especially Junction Fiber Mills wool, for some reason just doesn't bother me as much as other wools have in the past. And this one I tend to wear where none of my skin is really exposed to it except my wrists here. And I like the cropped length. So yes, I am going to try to go to Rhinebeck in 2025. So I will try to wear this there. You might see me wearing it if you go. But in the meantime, it sits on my office chair, and I love being able to bundle up in it when it's cold in my office, which you might not think it gets cold in Los Angeles, but the houses here just get chilly when it's the wintertime. So often the house is sort of sitting in the mid 60s, and that's kind of cold for inside a house. So I will toss on my wool sweater, and it keeps me very cozy. And it also just looks nice on the back of my chair. Okay, and so that one was made with Junction Fiber Mill Making Tracks is the color changing yarn. And this colorway is Heyday. That's a DK weight. And then the main color is their Farm Fresh in the color Ochre. I'm pretty sure. I love this color. It's a little, I would say, greeny yellower in person than it's showing up on camera. It's showing up quite like caramel colored on camera. And I do think it's more yellow than that in person, which I like. So yeah, so this is my one garment of the year. And I am hoping to make one more cardigan for Rhinebeck this year. But and I was supposed to make it last year, but I ended up doing this one instead. And I only have like one sweater a year in me. So that was that. That one gets an A because of how nice it turned out and its use value to me. Okay, my third one off is the emotional support chicken. Everyone made these. Everyone says they're sick of them, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. I already talked about it in another video, I believe. I made this out of Green Mountain Spinnery, that same lichen color from my water bottle, and their DK Ragtime, sort of a marled yarn, and then some scraps I had for the like chicken parts. I'm going to give this a B. I think it's cute enough. My kids love it. It came out fine. I didn't love knitting it. The pattern is a fine pattern, but it just was not written the way I'm used to my knitting patterns not mine, but the ones I use to make things. It's just written a little idiosyncratically to me, which is probably fine for people who don't have like a particular pattern style they're attached to. But for me, it was like, it's a little different. I don't know. And I just find toy knitting a little fiddly sometimes, especially with all the seams and everything. So yeah, I just give this a B. It's fine. I did actually make one other garment, which was a dress for a baby. I made the Rio dress. It was sort of a striped merino cashmere nylon little dress for a little baby girl. I don't still have it because the baby has it now. I would give that one a B. It's a great pattern. I've made many gifts out of this Rio dress pattern. I don't know why I would give it a B. I think just because like I'm not a big like baby dress person, but I make them as gifts. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I also made a mosaic blanket, the Pearl Soho mosaic blanket pattern. And I give that an A. It turned out really well. That was also for a baby. That baby has used it. I've seen pictures of the baby with it on. And even though it's a little bit of a slog to knit a blanket for me, it just came out so well that I cannot complain. And I made that with Swish Worsted by Knit Picks, which is one of my favorite yarns. And I have grown an even greater appreciation for that yarn this year. And I will show you some other items that I used it for. And then my last one off are these socks. These are the Spiral Splash socks by Stephen West. I did these as a test knit for Stephen West, and these are made with Mominoki sock fine, which I believe is a superwash 4-ply sock yarn with probably some nylon in it. Maybe it's 100% merino. Not totally sure off the top of my head. These also are like a much more vibrant green than the camera is picking up right now, which is disappointing to me because I love the green color that these are, and it's looking very drab on camera, unfortunately. And then it's, you could see the motif here is this sort of spiral garter bump stripe that I did with a ball of Zauberball Crazy in, I think, the Shooting Star colorway, which is like a pink and green and a little bit of blue. So these turned out cute. I am not a big sock knitter. I kind of only did these as an opportunity to test knit for one of my favorite designers, Stephen West. So, but I'm thinking I might get into socks more in 2025 because they're such a good portable project, and they take a while to make. So you get the process of the knitting, and then they don't take up a lot of space once you've made them, unlike everything else I'm going to show today, which is taking up a lot of space in my office, which is part of why I just need to do this video and get it done with. So yeah, maybe I'll do more socks in the coming year. We'll see. Oh, I give these a B because I don't really wear them. I'm not in the habit of wearing my hand knit socks because I just don't have that many of them, but I could get in the habit. So we will see. Maybe they'll be an A in terms of use in the next year. Okay, now we are moving on to the category of shawls and scarves. And it is actually not the biggest category, but there's at least 10, maybe 12 things in it. So buckle up. The first one is, well, I'm not going to go in any kind of order here. I'm going to go in the order that they are stacked next to me so that I don't disrupt the stack and lose everything. So this one that's on top, this is the Gaca shawl, Gaca, by Atelier Cliché, Jean-Philippe Cliché. I will hold it up first and then I will model it. So this is a cable knit shawl. I might have shown my first version of this, which was, the suggested yarn is Manchalope's by Wool Dreamers, which is an unspun yarn. And it's very hard to work with for me because you have to be very cognizant of your tension. Otherwise the yarn just splits constantly. Which is fine. If I was just going to always knit sitting still on the couch with the yarn cake next to me, it would be fine. But that's not how I tend to knit. I often am like taking it on the go. I'm moving it around. I'm like, you can't just like pull on the skein. So it just was like kind of inconvenient for me to work from. And then combined with this like rather intricate cable knit pattern, I ran into a problem where I misread the chart at some point. I don't even know where it was, but it was a pretty far way in, and I couldn't figure out how to get back out of it. Like you can't tink back with that yarn because it's so sensitive. So I just was like, no, abandon. I still have the little whip. But then I started over with some Knitting for Olive heavy merino from my stash. That's what this is. The colorway is pomegranate, and I love this colorway. It's like, to me, it's like very red, but it's almost rusty red. So it's just the perfect kind of red for me. And so the version with the Manchalopes is much bigger and like bulkier and poofy and like very woolly. And I really found that appealing. When I did this alternative version, it kind of didn't turn out the way I wanted it totally. I do love the shape. This is my favorite shawl shape. It's a very shallow triangle with tapered points that you can just kind of tie in a little knot and it fits under your jacket and it like wraps around a couple times. Absolutely my favorite. You'll see others like that today. But I don't love this yarn. And I can't exactly tell you why. I think knitting with it, it's very dry feeling. And then it kind of has that same feeling now. Like it's soft enough. It is not itchy to me at all, but it's not cozy really. That could be partly the pattern application of it as well. I don't know. I'm also doing another sort of textured test knit right now using it. And it's sort of the same issue where I think it looks really good. It's great for stitch definition. I'm sure there's people who are just like fanatics for this yarn. I feel like I've gotten my fill. Like I ordered a bunch of balls of this, probably for some project I have long since forgotten. So I'm just kind of like using it up as I have projects that it will work for, but I'm not in love with the finished objects. So I would actually give this a C because I really don't wear it and I don't see myself wearing it. This is one that I'm giving away in a raffle that I ran for a charity. So I am just showing it in the video and I will not have possession of it soon once I send it off to like whoever wins it. Okay, so Gaka shawl. Love this designer. I like the pattern. Didn't love the object so much. Okay, next is my Mystery Knit Along by Stephen West. This is the Go-Go Dynamo. I can't remember if I have shown this. I don't think I would have yet. Because I didn't finish it until November, I think. So this is it. I love the way this pattern came out. This is one of my favorite of Stephen's designs, and I have knit dozens, over 60 of his patterns, and this is one of the tops, I would say, in terms of the finished object. I am not a huge fan of the circular crescent shawls, and I actually was going to do a whole video about these because I have made several of them from Stephen West's catalog, but I have enough. I'm not going to make any more, I don't think, unless the Mystery Knit Along next year is also a circular, half circle shawl. But I do love how this one came out. I love the colors. I used... What did I use? The variegated yarn is Meadow yarn. I can't remember the colorway. They all have kind of poetic names, but it's very pretty, like muted gray pastels, which are normally not my thing, but I think set against this dark green, it came out beautiful. It's such a good high contrast for the graphic pattern here. And what is the dark green? Is it Westwool? It might be Westwool in the color Wellington. Westwool Bicycle, the fingering weight, Westwool yarn, 2-ply, non-superwash in Wellington. I think that's what this is. So yeah, I don't really need to show this anymore. I love it. I will... it's good for if it's pretty chilly to wear. I like to wear it kind of bundled like this, like a scarf. Or if I just want to throw something over my shoulders while I'm working at my desk, I'll do this. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I give this an A. And I don't know how next year's Mystery Knit Along will top it, but we will see if it does. Okay, what's next? Garter Breeze. Oh, see, that's next on my list, but it's not next in my pile. So we're going to put that on hold. Okay, next on my pile is actually another semicircle Stephen West from earlier in the year. This was a test knit. So I'll back up. This is called the Light Bright Shawl. I think because, you know, if you use a dark color for the main color, then the little slipped stitches look like little light bright pegs. If you remember the light bright toy, I definitely had one in the 1980s. Um, for this one, I used the black is Kiddo by Lamb and Kid, which is just a fingering weight sock yarn that comes in 50-gram balls. And the colors are from a mini set I ordered from Grenoy Fiber Company based on their 2022 Advent. That I did not order the Advent, but I ordered the colors later once they were available as a little 10-pack of minis because I loved them so much. And I think this turned out really great. But once again, I don't find the large semicircle shawls to be the most wearable. And this one is quite deep. So there's just like a lot of fabric here and it looks a little weird maybe. I mean, I think when you're knitting a Stephen West, you're not trying to look weird. So no complaints here, but it's good, but I probably will not get much use out of this. But I was happy to have had the opportunity to test knit it. Okay. What is next on my pile? Okay. This is one of the Lindle patterns that I have made before I made this cardigan. So it has the same kind of motif, the same sort of short row, almost like leaf or lobe or flower, I don't know, petal motif. But this is a scarf. This is the Lindle shawl. The designer is Ona Walton. I made this. This was like, I think, one of my first finished objects of the year. And I love it. This is one of my favorite things I've ever made, ever. It is made out of Junction Fiber Mill, Making Tracks, and Farm Fresh, I think. Or this might be their Luxe. Farm Fresh Luxe line. It smells so good. It just like smells so nice and woolly. I love the greens and the ochres in this colorway, which is in the clearing, I think. And I love, you know, how kind of bulky this shawl is. You can wrap it around a bunch of times. When I went, I spent the holidays in Vermont and Connecticut and New York, and I wore this over another scarf with my coat, and it was like kept me nice and warm in the single digit temperatures. So I just absolutely love this. I'm tempted to make another one because I love it so much, but I don't need to. This one is great. So I'm just going to try and appreciate this one. So yes, A+ to this Lindle shawl. All right, next is another West Knit test knit. And this one is not a semicircular shawl. This is a modular triangle, which I really like. I don't necessarily love a deep triangle, but I do like the way this was constructed because you start, if I recall correctly, I think you start with this little part and then you like build on another section and then you build on another section and then another one and then the tip and then you put an I-cord border around the whole thing. Or maybe you do that as you go. I don't remember at this point, which is fine because it's a paid pattern. But I love this pattern. I think it turned out so great. I used Westwool Bicycle in 3 colors, which I believe the colors are Glow, which is a yellow that is not showing up as yellow at all on my camera. I am sorry. But it's like a golden yellow. And then a rusty, like a terracotta called Cardamuma. And then this is Sherbet, I want to say, which is actually like a pale pink. Again, not showing up true to color, which is a problem. But you get the picture of like the way the colors interact, I think. So this one I also took with me to New England in December, and it was great for going under my jacket. You know, it becomes a very bulky scarf when you wear it as a scarf as opposed to a shawl. So it was perfect. And then I could put my other scarf over it if I needed more. So I would give this, this is the Stripiometry. I don't know if I said the name of it. Stripiometry by Stephen West. I give this one an A as well for the finished object, which is very soft too. I find West wool yarn to be non-irritating as somebody who sometimes is irritated by non-superwash wool. All right, next. Oh, okay. We got all the Stephen Wests are piled up here in the middle. This is the part for you West Knits fans. This was my mystery knit along from 2023 that I believe it took me until 2024 to finish. So I will hold this up for you. This one is not exactly a semicircle. It was also kind of modularly constructed. And I love how this came out. I particularly love the colors, which again are not showing up the way I would like them to. Unfortunately, it must be my lighting, but I used 4 colors of West Wool Bicycle for this. I used Wellington as the dark green, green olive, Dijon, and then white peach, I believe was this color, which is, it's showing up kind of beige, but it's a peach. It's a whitish peach color, as the name says. And I picked like kind of short fringe for the look here. And I just love how vintage this came out looking. It just looks very 70s with the colors I picked and the stitch patterns that Stephen picked. So very happy with this one. I give this, what is this one called? Geogradient? Yeah. I give this one an A. So doing well with the shawls so far. Okay, here's another one. This was one of my last finished objects of 2024. This was using an Advent from a yarn dyer I had never ordered from before, but I loved their 2023 Advent, so I just jumped on the pre-order. So you can see there's 24 colors in this. It started with this kind of burgundy color, and then it had alternating, kind of vivid tonals, and then more unsaturated variegateds. And it sort of traveled through the warm colors into greens, which I loved, and then blues and grays and whites. So those are the 24 colors. The yarn dyer is Knotty Pine. Fiber yarn, Knotty Pine. You'll find it if you look up Knotty Pine. And the Advent I ordered was a superwash sock yarn. I can't remember if it's 100% merino or if it has some nylon in it. I think next time if I could get a non-superwash yarn, that's what I would do. But this was good. And this pattern is called Rockin' Rose by Martina Beam, who I have been knitting several things from over the past year, and I really like her graphic pattern style. And this is a pretty ingenious chevron pattern. You think a chevron pattern is very straightforward. You just increase and decrease, but this is actually more creatively written than that, with where the increases happen and where new stitches are cast on and bound off. So it's a very cool pattern, and I think it works perfectly for an Advent because the way the pattern is written, the stripes are actually thicker if you follow the pattern instructions to the letter, but I just kind of calculated, okay, if I do 8 row stripes, I'll use each color twice exactly. And that is what happened. So it was a beautiful way to use every color of the Advent and to use it twice so you could see the full kind of spectrum from tip to tip. And the shawl is knit tip to tip, which is my favorite way to make a shawl. So yeah, I love this one. I give this one an A. I haven't worn it a lot yet because it's, still kind of new to me. But I think it's a nice sort of light fingering weight scarf if I wanted to wear it. Maybe I'll just leave it on for now because it's not too hot. Okay, what's next. Okay, this is by the same designer. This is also Martina Beam. This is also using an advent, but this is from one of the advents I got in 2023. So it was like the leftovers. This is called Mrs. Watson, I think is the name of this shawl. And I used my botanical yarn advent from 2023, which was a fade. It was like a pastel ombre fade kind of thing. And you could see that worked very well in this sort of graphic, almost like zebra stripe looking pattern. And the main color I used was Knitting for Olive fingering, or light merino, which is fingering weight, in the color Thundercloud, I want to say. It's like a pewter, like a charcoal gray kind of color. So I think it shows off, this pattern shows off the advent fade beautifully. I guess I'll switch out that one for this one so you can see how this one lays. I also love the shape of this. The shallow triangle is definitely my favorite right now. These I would say are not really my colors. I just don't really wear pastels. I don't think they look great on me. But I love the way this turned out. I don't know, maybe I'll give this away someday, but I like looking at it too much to give it away yet. Okay, and then there is my bubble bandana. This was a test knit for Stephen West. This was part of his Small Shawls ebook. I think that's what it's called. There are 4 different scarf patterns. I have a couple more in my queue, but this was the one that I test knit. And it's written to be like a much smaller sort of scarflet, but what I did was I just kept going. I kept increasing from the tip until I had used up half my yarn. And this yarn is Junction Fiber Mill Making Tracks Light. So it's their sport weight mixed with their, I guess, Farm Fresh Light, which is just a, natural color. So it's 2 skeins each of those. And yeah, this one turned out beautifully. If you saw me on the Junction Fiber Millcast, this was kind of my entree into that channel. Because this yarn came in their subscription box that came out last year. It was one of their first sport weight yarns, and I love the way it turned out in this pattern. Again, I love the shape. I'm going to be making lots more shallow triangles, knit tip to tip in 2025. So I give this one an A as well. Kind of can't believe how many A's I'm giving out. It's not very characteristic of me. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, then guess what? It's another shallow triangle. I've sort of discovered, like, I am a product knitter and that I like certain things. And I'm pretty particular about what I will wear and what I want to make. But I am also a process knitter in that I will just make, way more shallow triangle scarves than I really need. Because I do enjoy the process of like finding a new pattern, making it, seeing if I like the stitch and the yarn combination and all of that. So this is the Coral Reef scarf by... Oh, I'm blanking on her name. I'm very sorry. But again, if you go to my Instagram at Trivial Knits, you'll see it if you kind of scroll back far enough. And it will have like the pattern designer and the pattern name and everything. This is Coral Reef scarf. And I knit this out of Knit Picks Swish Worsted in the colorway Copper. And it is actually showing up pretty true to color on the camera. It's like a very reddish brown. And I think this turned out great too. I have been trying to get away from superwash a little bit. I don't know why. I think just to try it, to acquaint myself with more natural yarns. But I actually love this yarn. It's so soft. There's not a single itch to it. It's pretty cozy. I don't think it probably would be warmer if it had more fuzzy wool, untreated fibers, but you kind of trade that off in the softness, and it's washable, of course. I haven't put it in the wash, but this is It's made with just knits and pearls. I don't think there's any actual cabling in it, but it has kind of a cable rib look, which looks really nice. So I give this one an A as well. Okay, what else have I got? Okay, here's the Garter Breeze. This is another Stephen West. This is like an older Stephen West pattern that I just like had in my library forever. And I had an advent from, I think, also 2023 that I wanted to use up. This was the Hue Loco Oxide Fade. So I just had a bunch of leftovers of this DK weight yarn. So I decided to make the Garter Breeze with it. It's huge. Let's see if I can back up all the way. So you can see it goes this tip. It's sort of made with short rows in like different chunks. You can sort of see how the colors progress. And then when I got here, like this variegated yarn was the last of my advent. And then I still had a lot of ways to go on the pattern. But fortunately, I had the skein of DK weight, Labiana May Merino that just like perfectly faded. It looks like it was part of that fade, but it wasn't. And this is the colorway Undergrowth, I think, or Underbrush. I think it's Undergrowth. It's like a brown. I haven't historically knit with a lot of browns, but I might be getting into it. And then I just had this like spare single skein of fingering. I think this is Ching Fiber, like a variegated sock yarn, like a BFL sock yarn that I was like, well, that kind of goes. So I did that for the I-cord border that you put on at the end. So I love how this turned out. I think it's beautiful. I think Hue Loco's advents are always very nice looking. She just has such a great sense of color. But this is all non-superwash DK weight sock yarn. I don't know if it has any nylon in it, but it's quite heavy and thick because it's garter stitch. So I like that. That's like a texture I like. But I don't know if this would be for everyone because it weighs more than a scarf made out of a different kind of stitch and a different kind of wool would. But again, it's sort of a shallow triangle shape, so it's really wearable in my opinion. And I love how this turned out. And I would give this one an A also. Lots of A's. Okay, next. Did I say Garter Breeze, Stephen West? That's what that one was. Okay, next. This is the Kira shawl. It is a very small little scarflet type shawl. This is by Amba O'Brien, who I have also been knitting a lot of lately. And this is using Junction Fiber Mill Making Tracks. That's their color changing, non-superwash wool, DK weight, paired with Cascade 220 in navy blue. This one, it's like a little itchier than the other ones that I've just been talking about, which I think is just the yarn combination and the stitch, because it's a mosaic garter. So there's just like a lot of bumps. So the wool, like the little, like, you know, the itchy fibers that are sticking out really stick out as opposed to kind of like laying down in a stockinette fabric like they might otherwise. But it's not too bad. It's definitely tolerable. And I do love the way it looks. I think the color, this very subtle color change, the colorway is Valley Fog. It works really well. And I really enjoyed using the Cascade 220. I am considering making my cardigan in 2025 with that as one of the main colors. But I'm not on a buy nothing year, but I can only purchase things I have touched in person or know that I like the yarn. And I feel like I haven't spent enough time with this. So I need to see it in person to decide if I want to make a whole sweater out of it. So I'm going to wait. And I also don't really go shopping at local yarn stores by me that much. There's a couple that have like the kind of yarns I really like, but most they just aren't what I would be looking for. So I end up usually buying yarn when I travel and I go to other local yarn stores. So I think, next time I make it to Michigan or something, I may pick up more of this, even though Cascade 220 is a very easily available yarn, I might have to travel to another state to get it myself. So this was the Kira shawl by Amba O'Brien. And I gave that one an A also. Maybe I'd give it an A minus for the slight itchiness compared to those other A shawls. Okay, I think that might be it for my shawls. So a lot of very successful ones, but the Gaka shawl, I'm going to give the C, and that one I'm giving away. Okay, let's get to the Cowls. And I just want to say, I know this is a long video. I'm sorry. It's like 50 items. If you want to come back to it later, please feel free. Or don't come back to it later. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. But I still have at least 10 Cowls to go and a lot of hats. So hopefully you're along with me if you decided to stay. Okay, so Cowls. Let's see. I'm gonna move the hats over here. And okay, so here's the first cowl. This is the Dustland cowl by Stephen West. Another one that's been kind of in my library for a while. This color is criminally not showing up correctly on the camera. It is like a ochre Dijon color. This is swish worsted in the colorway Haystack Heather. One of my very favorite colors. It just looks like a very boring beige on camera right now. But it's not. It's a beautiful color in person. I'm going to take my hat off. So this, I believe the pattern is written to be like a longer, like a double, like you could twist it around, or a Mobius. But I don't love the Mobius shape. I have made them. You'll see some, but I just wanted to make a tube. I think that's the most wearable for me, to make a pretty narrow tube that stands up. I hate a floppy cowl. So I made this to go under, just like wear under a jacket. It serves the purpose. It's very soft. The swish worsted is a great yarn. Not the warmest, but it gets the job done. It is 100% wool. Superwash. Yeah, I would recommend this pattern. If you like that Dustland sort of Guernsey look, there's a hat, there's a cowl, there's a little scarf that I'm making right now. I think there's a sweater. There might be a blanket, a shawl. There's like anything you want to make, you can do it with this motif. So yeah, I recommend this. I would give an A too. Okay, next. This is my Ion Cowl by Andrea Gaughan. This one I did decide to follow the pattern instructions and make as a Mobius. I might have to take my glasses off because I do like a tight fitting cowl. And this one is quite snug. But I like it that way. Because it doesn't let any air in. Even with the Mobius, it's like doesn't flop. It's like a very nice little like crossover here. Would fit under a jacket. I used 7 colors of West Wool Bicycle held double in this colorwork motif, and I basically randomly decided like which color to use next, so there's no sort of rhyme or reason to the color alternation. I just wanted it to look random. But I used like greens and a little bit of blues and pinks, and I think it turned out really great. I really like Andrea Gaughan's pattern writing style and sort of presence and everything, so I recommend it. I would give this one an A. I just do think it turned out very graphic and beautiful looking. It's like kind of itching me right now, which normally I don't find West Wool that itchy, but it might be the tighter gauge that I used for this. But that's not an issue with the pattern. It's really my yarn choice and my tension. All right. Let me put my hat back on. Actually, I'm going to wear more cowls, so no hat. Next. This is the Embrace Cowl. This pattern is by Andrea Mowry and Drea Renee Knits. And the yarn is the Grenoy fiber Bioluminescence Advent from 2023. If you couldn't tell, I am on a stash busting kick lately, so I'm trying to use up all my old Advents from previous years that I did knit with at the time, but didn't use up every ounce of or every gram. So I've been trying to do that. So this didn't use up everything either, but it was designed to be done with a fade Advent, so it lent itself well to that yarn. This is a Mobius cowl. This one's a little bit bigger. Still fits pretty nice around the neck. And this one is achieved by marling fingering weight sock yarn. And so I did this. I don't think I exactly followed the pattern. The pattern does tell you like how to marl it and where to change colors. I think I just used my scale. And I figured out like, okay, if I've got 15 grams left, I need to like marl it with this other color for 5 grams and then by itself double for 5 grams. It doesn't quite add up, but I sort of did some math and had to weigh it. So it wasn't really a very portable project because I had to be near my scale at all times, and they're small little balls of yarn I was using, so I would go through them and need a new one quickly. But it was a very good stash busting project. So if you do have like a fade set of minis or scraps, I do recommend. And it's such a easy, many of Andrea Mowry's patterns, like the appeal of them, I think, is that the stitch pattern is pretty easy to learn and pretty repetitive. So I do find them boring sometimes, but the finished object looks so nice that I kind of push through. But I would say that's kind of the case for this one. But this one, it wasn't boring because of the color changes. That like kept me engaged. And I love using up yarn and feeling like I'm doing something good with my stash. So this was a very successful project and very portable because, well, not portable when it was time to change colors. But if I knew I had just started a new color and I had a few rows I could do, then the stitches were easy to memorize and just take with me somewhere. Okay, so I give this one a B because I don't know, I just don't wear it that much. I like it a lot. I like the finished object. I am going to give this one away as well in a raffle that I already did. So this is not a giveaway in this channel or this video, but this will be gifted to someone at some point. Okay. Okay, next. This is the Remy cowl by Olga Jazzy or Olga Knits. I know I'm not getting the name right, but I think Olga Jazzy is her Instagram handle, so you can find her. And this is a bulky weight cowl that's knit from side to side, if that makes sense. Like you cast on at, one of these edges and then you cast off at the other edge. So you cast on a lot of stitches and make it in the round. And it's 2-color brioche or something. It might not be brioche, but I think it doesn't look like brioche on the back, so maybe it's like fisherman's rib. I don't know. I don't know these stitches. So I'm sorry, and I didn't look it up because I'm just overwhelmed here. But I made this using a skein of yarn that I sort of impulse bought on my birthday. My birthday is right around Rhinebeck, so I was not at Rhinebeck, and it was my birthday, and I was near a yarn store, so I was like, I'm buying myself yarn. So that's what I did. This was Lang is the maker of the yarn, and I can't remember the cloud. Maybe it's cloud or a word that means cloud in German. I don't know. But it's a color changing blown yarn that's like wool and nylon or acrylic. Not sure. But it just was so beautiful and soft. So that's what the colorful yarn is in here. And then I used some swish worsted in gray dove heather that I had in my stash as the contrasting color. And I have to say, I do not like how this came out. because I feel that it does no justice at all to the color changing yarn, which is my bad. The color transitions are just not long enough for this kind of object. If it had been, a cowl that was only this, if it was just this much was the cowl, it would have been great. And you would see the shifts in the colors, but because each stripe is so long in this cowl, you don't see the shift. It just looks like kind of a confetti of different colors. Because by the time you get all the way back around, you've moved on like 2 colors later. So it looks, the skein was so pretty. And this I don't think is that pretty, in my opinion. But I haven't really made a cowl like this in a while, so I wanted to just like give it a shot. And it's been in my queue for a long time. And I think it turned out okay. Honestly, I would give this a C. I think somebody will enjoy it and get wear out of it, but not me. It is very nice and soft. It's not super warm because it's like not a very tight knit, tight gauge. And it just kind of flops. So it's like a good little accessory, but I wouldn't say it's super functional. So yeah, good try. And I enjoyed the yarn. I enjoyed the pattern. I think if I were going to recommend this pattern, which I do, I think it's a good pattern, I would do what the designer did in the sample photos, which is like just a high contrast, like a red and a white or something, to really like play on the color work and the stitch pattern and everything. This I don't think really worked out. Okay, let's see what is next. Okay, next in my pile is my supine cowl. This was a test knit I did for Casey Herlihy, or Casey Knits, who is just like one of the loveliest people in the knitting world. Like I've knit a few of her patterns before having purchased them, and she's just so nice and like supportive of knitters. And so I have volunteered for her test calls a couple of times. One of which was the True Story bandana cowl that I do not have with me anymore, so unfortunately I will not show it. But I did that one for her, and then I volunteered for this one. So this is also a bandana cowl, but unlike the True Story, which is knit from the bottom tip and then in the round, this one is knit from side to side. And it has buttonholes. So it actually buttons to make a tube. And I will put it on. And I think I did mine like exactly to pattern, but it turned out pretty snug, which I'm happy about. I do not like a floppy cowl. So I like that this like stands up as much as it needs to. And it's because of the bandana shape, you could still like put it under a jacket. And I just used like 3 random buttons I had and like a box of buttons. So they don't exactly match, but I don't think you can tell. And they're like, I don't know if they're even the right color, because this is navy blue. This is Westwool Bicycle in Mariniere, which I think is supposed to be like a navy. And then these colors are Lola Bean Wax Bean, I think is the name of the yarn. It's a silk merino blend that was part of I think it was like a Stephen West yarn along like a few years ago. So I got it. I really like the neons. It's like a neon orange and then a lighter orange and then a yellow. There's 3 different skeins, but I just never found the right use for them. But this I thought was a good little way to use it. So yeah, this is the Supine Cowl by Casey Knits. I recommend this one. I mean, I would give it a B because I don't wear it a lot. Again, no reflection on the pattern or the yarn. It's just this object is not as functional to me as some of my other cowls that I just reach for a little bit more. But this is a great way to use up scraps and will be a great gift knit for sure. As would the True Story cowl. So I recommend that one as well. Okay, gonna get another one. Put them here so I can reach them. Okay, so this was another attempt to use up Advent yarn. So this was my using up my Hedgehog Fibers Advent from 2022. I can't remember anymore. I have a lot of Advents, but it's spread over many years. So there are a lot of leftovers in this one. and I made so this is the Tweedy Stripes pattern, which is a scarf pattern by the person who runs Hedgehog Fibers. I can't remember her name at the moment. But it's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's intended to use a different Hedgehog Fibers yarn. They're like tweed, but I used the sock, like the Lucky Dip or Potluck or whatever they call it from the Advent, just like random different variegated ones. And I alternated the stripes of the Advent yarns with a skein, two skeins of La Vienna May, like a variegated merino sock yarn. I can't even remember the name of the colorway, but it was like kind of a neon speckled gray. So I held those two skeins double, and then I held each little ball of, or little cake of the Hedgehog Fiber Advent yarn double. So it's a DK weight scarf. It is written as a scarf. I don't really care for scarves that are not tapered. I love a tapered scarf these days. So I decided I was just going to knit this long enough to be a cowl and then seam it. And so it's it's a chevron, has a chevron edge to it, which I like. But it was pretty easy to seam together. If I can figure out where the seam, here is the seam. So you can barely tell that there's a seam there. You can tell on the other side where I did the mattress stitch, but it worked out quite neatly, I think. So, it has that like clown barf look that you get when you mix a lot of variegated sock yarns, hand-dyed superwash sock yarns. So it's not totally my thing, but I will give this one away, again, to someone in a raffle or something. So I would actually give this one a B, because I do think it turned out well. It was a very good use of the yarn. It's just not my look. But if I ever did want to make another sort of engaging chevron cowl, I would use this pattern again for sure. Tweedy Stripes is the pattern. Okay. This is my Traveler cowl. This is another Andrea Mowry pattern. So I had these 3 skeins of Spin Cycle Dream State in the colorway Deep Bump just sitting in my stash. I got them for 50% off in a sale, like a online sale one time, which is like, if you could get Spin Cycle for 50% off, you do it. Because it's kind of like 50%, or it's twice as expensive as like any other yarn. So it's like, this makes it a reasonably priced yarn. So it used 3 skeins, and it's just a very simple stitch pattern, and it's Andrea Mowry's classic cowl construction. She's got a million of them that all have the same construction. You basically knit a trapezoid, and then you join the edges with a seam. You sew it up. So yeah, I like this. The yarn is so fun to work with. It's just like so beautiful and like enjoyable. To watch the color changes. I would say I don't wear it that much because it's a little floppy for my taste. It's like no reflection on the actual cowl. I think a lot of people would like this. So I might give this a B, but I don't know. Maybe someday I'll reclaim the yarn for something else because it's really fun to work with. So if I'm not wearing the finished object, I might still use the yarn for something else, because I do love this colorway of Spin Cycle. Again, this is Dream State and Deep Bump, and the pattern is Traveler Cowl by Andrea Mowry. Okay, here's another cowl. This is called Exact Opposite, and the designer is named Shayna Cohen, I want to say. I think her Instagram handle is Shayna Lines. She's kind of a new designer to me, but I think this was in Knitty magazine, which I used to knit from all the time back in the day before Ravelry existed. But so it's nice to see that they're still going and still publishing really nice free patterns. So this is a cowl that has sort of an interesting construction. One side of it is made well, they're both made with garter stitch stripes, but it's assembled sort of modularly, if I'm recalling correctly. So you end up with like perpendicular lines of stripes, and you end up with like the right side here and the wrong side here. And then it like switches if you turn it around. And it has these little sort of notches cut out so you can fold it very jaunty. And it fits over your shoulders. So I really like the way this looks. I used, it calls for DK weight yarn, I'm pretty sure. I used a skein of Feederbrook Farm, I want to say, like color changing, 2-ply DK weight yarn that I got at Rhinebeck. And for the main or the solid color, I used Westwool Bicycle Held Double in the color Enchanted, I want to say, which is like a greeny blue jean kind of color. So I think this turned out great. I don't wear it a ton, maybe because it's like a little floppier than I prefer my cowls to be, but I think it looks really nice. I'm not getting rid of it because maybe I'll incorporate it a little more in the future. So I would give this a B, but it's a good, fun pattern, good way to use up color shifting yarn, which I have a lot of in my stash. So I do recommend this one. And I really like the finishing on it. Like, I just love a nice, like, chunky border. I think this is an I-cord border, which I like. I enjoy. All right. I think I just have one more cowl that I still have. And this is Andrea Mowry Night and Day. You know, I've made a million of these Andrea Mowry cowls, and I have to say, I don't know that I find them the most wearable for me personally, but I just love her stitch patterns. You know, they look so good. And I love this high contrast one that almost looks like a checkerboard without having to do stranded color work to make the checkerboard. This is achieved with just slip stitches. So it was quite easy to make. And this is 2 colors of Junction Fiber Mill Farm Fresh in ochre, which is the same color from my cardigan here, and natural, so like a natural white. And I love this ochre color. It's showing up a little bit better, I feel like, in contrast to the white. The camera is picking it up better. It's more of a golden color. The neck is the I-cord here is a little tight, but it's not too tight. So yeah, I think this looks good. It again, in this application, the Junction Fiber Mill is a little itchy on me. It isn't always for whatever reason, but I don't know. Just this one is. But I love the untreated wool, or like, not superwash wool. So I'm sure it's quite warm and might be useful if it gets really cold. So I recommend this one. I would give this a B, again, because I don't wear it a ton. I don't reach for it, but I do like it. I like the way it looks, and I enjoyed knitting it. Again, it got a little repetitive, toward the end, but you just like push through, get the object, you're done. Okay, I think that's it for, oh no, there's one more cowl. Okay. This is the Pearl Soho bandana cowl. And this is using that same ball of the Lang Cloud, I think it's called, that I got on my birthday. That didn't work so well in the really long stripe repeat cowl. So I wanted to see how it would knit up in a different shape. So this is the Pearl Soho bandana cowl. And I do think you can appreciate the color shifting a bit more in this. It's not my look, so I did give this to my 9-year-old who likes it. And I snuck in a couple rows of another color because I almost ran out of this before I finished the border. But this is a great bandana cowl pattern. It just works so well in lots of different kinds of yarn. I've made it at least 3 times now. And it's a free pattern. So highly recommend this one. I would give this an A, I think. Even though I don't wear it, I think it turned out as intended. So you can't fault it. Um, all right. I think we're ready for hats. Well, I might try on the hats, so I'm not gonna put one on yet. Okay. Let's see what we have. So this hat I was wearing before is the Dun beanie. I made this out of Manchalopes. The Manchalopes yarn I was going to use for my Gaka shawl, I ended up using for a different Atelier cliche pattern that also called for that yarn. So I thought it might be a little more manageable in a hat, and it was. So this is the Dun beanie. It is knit side to side, and then I can't remember if it's a 3-needle bind off or a Kitchener or a seam. I honestly can't remember how it's finished, but I really love the side to side. I love a side to side sweater. I like a side to side hat. And Atelier Cliche has a few different patterns that make use of that, so I really appreciate his stuff. And it's all very like stylish and hipster, so I'm a fan. And so the Manchalopes yarn, it's very rustic wool. So you might expect it to be itchy, but I have not found it to be that itchy. You can tell that it's rustic, but it works great as a hat, in my opinion. And it's extremely light. It's very lightweight because there's a lot of air in it, because it's not spun. So I wore this to Vermont, and it was like good for that setting. So even though it's light, it's very warm and holds a lot of the warm air in it. So I would give this one an A, and I wear it all the time, and I think the color is perfect for me. So successful project. This is my other Atelier Cliche hat that I made this year. I think I made another one the previous year, but this is called the Vold hat. This I made out of Westwool Tandem, the DK weight, non-superwash wool. And this is knit in the round, 1x1 rib, with intarsia in the round, which I will never do again because it was extremely frustrating to figure out how to do that. I did eventually figure it out, and I love the finished product. I do think it was worth it. It fits me great. I love this yarn. I don't even know if you would realize it's hand knit because of like the color work is kind of impressive, in my opinion. That like the intarsia blocking. And I it's like a pretty similar color. I do think that's a good color on me. So yeah, I give this one a B only because like I probably cried while I was trying to knit it, which it's like knitting. It's not that serious. Like it shouldn't be that frustrating. But this was hard. So that's why I would give it a B, and I probably wouldn't make it again, but I do love the finished object. Okay, what's next? Next is my March hat. This is made out of Knit Pick Swish worsted in the color Haystack Heather, which once again is not showing up as it should on camera. It is, more of a greenish yellow than it's looking like. And this was part of the Year of Hats series of free patterns from Kelborn Woolens, which, is designed using their yarn, which I didn't have their yarn, so I used Knit Picks. I would say this hat is successful. I do wear it. I think it looks good. I think it's a good color. It fits correctly. It was fun to make. My only qualm with it is the superwash yarn that is so soft. I don't feel like the hat is the best application because it's quite floppy, as you can see. And I like my hats to be a little more structured and snug. So this one, I wouldn't wear if it was really cold, but I would like toss it on if I needed to cover my hair with a hat. So B, but successful. Okay, what's next? Okay, next we've got the Glow Hair Frost hat. This was a hat that I test knit for Stephen West. This is part of the Hyper Knitting collection that came out in December. And this is written for, I think it's a skein of Westwool Tandem, which is a DK weight wool, and a strand of their new Glow Hair yarn, which is a mohair, silk mohair. I think I ended up using just yarns for my stash because when you get a test knit assignment, like you just want to get started, and I tried to use only accept the test knit if I have yarn that I can use for it. So I did use West Wool. I used West Wool Bicycle in the color French Gray, which I think is what it's called. But I held it double to get the DK weight. And then I just had a strand of Knit Picks Aloft. I think it's called Aloft. They're mohair, which I actually really like. I think it's one of my favorite mohairs, even though it's one of the cheaper ones. In like a white color. And I actually ran out. So you can see the tip is like a little darker than the rest, but you really can't tell. So this is, just a beanie with 2x2 rib, and then like a lace and cable motif. The glow hair frost motif, Stephen is calling it, and he's used it in a bunch of other patterns this winter. But I think this turned out really good. It's like the exact correct snugness, and fuzziness and warmness and height too, because it like has that little tip, but it's not so much of a tip that it looks ridiculous. And I think you can really see the cables just the right amount and the lace. So I'm quite happy with this one. I would give this one, I don't know. I thought I was going to give it a B, but now I might give it an A, because it's like I reach for it when it's cold. It's a little too itchy when it's not cold, like all mohair is, but in my opinion, but I think it's very successful. So I would give this an A. Okay, next. Okay, this is the Dylan's beanie by Woolly Wormhead. I have made this as a baby hat at least once, maybe twice. Earlier in the year, but I wanted my own. And the reason I like this pattern is it's top down, which makes it like very easy to determine the length, the exact length you want. Okay. And then I could do I did a sewn bind off, a tubular bind off, an Italian bind off. I don't know what the right term for it is, but it's, that kind of bind off, which I think turned out okay. You do that like for neatness, I guess, so you don't have like the flaring when you're binding off around the brim. And I would say the cast on for this was really easy. Much easier than the Musselburgh, even though it's like the same exact function. So if I were to make a Musselburgh again, I would go use the instructions for the cast on for the Dylan's beanie from Woolly Wormhead, which is a free pattern. So, I would probably do that and then continue with the Musselburgh instructions. But yeah, I like this one. This yarn is Barocco Vintage, which I sort of impulse bought in person because I loved the color. It looks quite orange on camera, and it is actually called orange. But to my eye, it doesn't look orange. It looks more like a tomato red, or like a pimento red, orange. I don't know. But on camera it does look orange, and it's called orange. But it's not that, it doesn't look like a hunting hat or something to me. But I think it turned out quite well. I like a 1x1 rib. It's nice and snug. I think it's just a little on the small side, and that might be my fault. I do think I might have adjusted the stitch count to be a little smaller than what the pattern called for. So I do wear this, but it's like I don't love it. So I would give this a B. But it's a good hat. I recommend the pattern. All right. Oh, and the Barocco Vintage is I think it's superwash wool and acrylic, which I normally am not drawn to, but the colors are just so nice. And actually I was gifted from just a friend a few more skeins of this in different colors, so I will be using it again in 2025, hopefully. But yeah. All right. Next is my Great Gingham beanie. I've talked about this before, I believe. It's fine. I give this a B. It's just fine. Like, it fits okay. The colors are okay. The pattern was okay. I don't love it. I wouldn't make it again. I do love it like in pictures. I love other people's versions of it. There's something about this that it's just not my favorite hat. No, I don't grab it the way I would like my Dun beanie, for example. So it's okay. A B. I didn't say the yarn. This is the Great Gingham hat. The yarn is Cascade 220 and Junction Fiber Mill making tracks in Valley Fog. Part of the issue, I think, is that the long color work, along the color changing stripes in the making tracks yarn, just like there's not enough hat here to show them off. And especially that's a very subtle color change in that particular colorway. So you almost can't tell this is a color changing yarn. It just looks like gray or something. So I think that's part of my disappointment with it. But live and learn. Okay, next is my Brewmaster hat. This was a test knit for Hunt Hand Knits. I talked about this in a video earlier in the year, so I'm not going to say much about it. It's, stranded color work. I used Westwool Tandem in Wellington, like dark green, and I believe that I used Green Mountain Spinnery Ragtime, which is like a marled, non-superwash wool for the color work. Looks good. Again, it's like a little on the small side, again, which was my choice to make the smaller size. I could have made a larger size. So I would give this a B. Fine hat, good pattern. The object is not my favorite. Okay, this is the Sailor Hat by Sari Nordland. I chose to make this one because it's top down, and again, I wanted to get the length exactly where I wanted it. I used not superwash hand-dyed sock yarn, 2 strands of that plus a strand of Knitting for Olive mohair in black or something close to a black that I think I was sent by mistake, actually. I don't think I actually ordered that, but I used it for this hat. I like this hat. It feels nice. It has a nice snugness. It's the exact correct length because I like to wear my beanie kind of over on my head. I don't know what I gave this hat when I rated my hats earlier in the year, but I would give this a B because the mohair is a little itchy if it's not really cold. But if it is really cold, it's not the hat I'd reach for because it's non-superwash sock yarn. So it's fine. All right, next I have been trying to do different Musselburgh hats in different weights. So a couple years ago I did one in fingering weight that I really, really, really like. But it's not as warm as it could be. So I decided to do one in DK weight to see how I like that. So I did this one. Oh, that's the seam or where I, did the stripes. So this one is, this green is actually a color changing yarn. It is so subtle on this point of the hat that you really can barely tell. But the other stripes are Westwool Tandem DK weight wool in a few different scrappy colors I had in my stash. So this one I used different colors on this half of the hat. And the other half of the hat I used all pink, or Roswitha it's called. And you can see the color changing of the marled yarn. This is Utopia Yarns. I can't remember the colorway, but it's green. I got this at Rhinebeck. And I would say, what do I give this hat? I would give this a B. It does what it's supposed to. It's a Musselburgh. If you like this look, you can fold up the brim. But I would say in my experiment, I prefer the fingering weight Musselburgh to the DK weight. My next one will be a sport weight, I think, to see if that's a nice happy medium. This is pretty warm. This is 4 layers of fabric. So I enjoy it, but it was definitely just a scrappy hat to use up some stuff and experiment. So it was never going to be my favorite hat. But it's good. Good hat. What's next? Okay. This is the Traveler hat by Andrea Maury. I got sort of sucked into the Memorial Day weekend knit along, as I often do. So that's, she hosts a knit along every year where you knit a small object. I think it's usually a hat, over a 4-day weekend in May. So this is using the Traveler stitch motif. It's a ribbed brim beanie. I used Green Mountain Spinnery, Weekend Wool in the colorway Lichen, which is a much more vivid green than you can see right now. So this hat has kind of an odd shape to it, as you can tell. And for whatever reason, I just don't love it on myself. I think the cast on is a little too bumpy or something. I might have done the German twisted cast on because I do feel like the pattern calls for that. And I have found that my long tail cast on is plenty stretchy. I don't need to do a German twisted. So I think that might have been the issue here, that it's a little too stretchy of a cast on for the wool that it is or whatever. So I actually don't wear this, and I find this yarn a little bit itchy. So I think I'm giving this one away to somebody. So I would give it a B. I think it turned out fine. I think it looks nice enough, like in a flat lay, but just not my thing. All right, these hats are piling up here. Okay, next hat. We're winding down. We're getting to the end of it. This is the Honey Dust hat. I'm so sorry. I can't remember the name of the designer, but I had this one in my queue for a very long time, so I finally made it. I made this using 2 colors of Kelborn Woolen's Lucky Tweed in Ocean and Fog, I want to say, was the other color. So this turned out too small. So it's stranded color work. I did not do a swatch. I don't know if I got gauge. I don't care. Life's too short. It's just a hat. I have a million hats, as you can see. So it's like, if it turns out small, I'll give it to my kids. I think that's what I ended up doing with this one. Or maybe I'm going to give this one away. It's just a little bit of a disappointment. But I don't think it's a bad pattern. I think the stranded color work is very pretty, and it was a good... I enjoyed using the yarn. I enjoyed discovering this yarn. This yarn is actually very beautiful. It's... like I said, it's the Lucky Tweed, and you can see all those speckles in there. They look so nice. So it is a joy to work with and just like see how the colors play as you're knitting with it. But just not my favorite object. I would give this a C because it's too small. Meh. Didn't work out. Okay. Here is another hat. This is the, oh geez. This is a Stephen West pattern. It's from his latest collection. It's from the Hybrid Knitting. Is it Glow Hair Diamonds? I want to say it's Glow Hair Diamonds because I think you're supposed to use the glow hair, like the mohair in it, but I did not. I let my youngest, my 6-year-old child, pick out yarns for a hat. He picked these from my stash. So this is what I got. So the neon yellow, it's looking much more faded on camera, but it is a neon yellow. It is swish worsted by Knit Picks in, I don't know what the name of the color is, but it's like highlighter yellow. And then the stripe, it's a self-striping. It is Knit Picks Felici in their like rainbow colorway, which they don't always have available, but the last time they did have it available, I ordered like 20 skeins of it. Because it's like useful if you want to make rainbow objects. I really haven't used much of it, but I just like grabbed it up because you can't always get it. So I have a lot of it now. And that's what he picked for his hat. So I think this turned out really well. It has a corrugated ribbing brim, and then it's stranded color work. So you can see on the inside how it looks. I have not sewn in the ends. I have blocked it though. And it's just a good, kind of stand-up beanie. I don't prefer a beanie like this because I like a little more bulk around my ears. But this, my kid likes it, so we're happy with it. Diamond Halo. That's what this is called. Diamond Halo hat by Stephen West. And this, I would give an A because it served its purpose. It turned out exactly as intended, even if I wouldn't pick these colors in combination and I would not wear this style of hat necessarily, but it did what it was supposed to do. So A. All right. And then I think this is my last one, and this is my fail of the year. am I calling it a fail or am I giving it a D? I think I'm giving it a D because, it actually looks kind of nice. This is the Plumped Up Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry. I definitely got like drawn in by the beautiful pictures of it, and impulse bought the pattern and the pattern for the cowl that goes with it. And this, there's two problems with it, okay? And the problems I think are my fault, okay? It's brioche, and I just don't think my brioche tension is good enough to make ribbed hats out of. I would prefer just to make a ribbed hat. I don't mind brioche in other applications, but hats just doesn't work for me. It's too loose. I can't get the tension right to be like how I want the hat to be. Okay, and then my other issue with this hat was yarn choice. Again, my fault. I had this skein of Noro yarn that I got, again, like on my birthday, as just like a treat for myself. And it is beautiful. It's like a little like flecked yarn, but it's like a wool cotton blend. And I just don't think cotton is the yarn to be using with a brioche plump, like a bulky, it's just this, like, it's so floppy. It doesn't sit the way it's supposed to sit. I mean, this hat is supposed to be like pointed and like kind of stand up on your head, and I guess it kind of does that. I don't even know if I like that. So I'm never gonna wear this hat. So that's why I'm giving it a D. But people like the pattern. Like, I'm not really complaining about the pattern. I just think it's not for me. And I didn't do it justice, I think. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for sticking with me through all those patterns. I didn't even show you everything I made this year because I've sent a lot of it off. But that's it. We got to do trivia. We always do trivia at the end. So my trivia question today is inspired by the very unfortunate fires happening here in Los Angeles. Again, fortunately, me and my family are okay, for right now. But it was sort of inspiring me to think about the fact that wool is naturally flame resistant. And I looked it up on the International Wool Textiles Organization. I think that's what it's called. And to read about the flame resistant properties of wool. And they say that wool does not melt, drip, or stick to the skin when it burns. So it seems like a pretty safe fiber to be using for your clothing if you're in a fire-prone area. And so my trivia question today is, why is wool naturally fire resistant? And it has to do with like the composition of the fibers. And I'm not going to say any more than that. So if you happen to know why wool is fire resistant, go ahead, type it in the comments. If you don't know already and you want to look it up, go ahead, look it up, type it in the comments. If you just want to guess, also fine to type it in the comments. I don't say the answers in the video because I want to keep it fun for everyone. I don't want to have spoilers. But if you want to look at the comments to see what other people said and upvote the ones you think are correct, feel free to do that. It's really just for fun. There's no prize or anything. Just sort of to learn something new about wool and fiber and yarn. So that's it for now. I hope to be back fairly soon. I have my Make 9 for 2025. I have a lot of plans to use up stash yarn, so I would love to talk about that to help keep myself accountable too, and get your ideas for scrappy projects. But I will close here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting. Anything you do helps me out. And I'll see you soon. Bye.